Hello everyone. How's everybody doing? How's everyone's... Is it Monday today? I can't even... It's Wednesday, it's Wednesday. Hey Senri, how's it going? I'm excited for our talk tomorrow. Hello, 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 hello. Pumi! I'm excited too. I am excited too. Hey Seham, I need a haircut. Hey Sharanya. Hey buddy, I'm from Sri Lanka but I'm living in Melbourne. Oh, there he is. Yo!
Yo, hey, 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 can you see me?
I can see you, buddy. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, you can.
I can't see me. I'm a black square. That's fine, right?
Are you a black square? Because I can see you.
Okay, then that's fine. Then that's yeah. This is the first time I'm doing one of these Insta live situations. So yeah,
Wait, I'm just gonna double check if everyone else can see you.
yeah,
Can
sure.
so guys, can we get a thumbs up in the chat if you can see Senel? Uh, now we can't see you. Now you're black. Okay, now you're black. Okay. um. Okay. Let's. Okay, they can see you. They can see you. I think you're fine.
Okay, okay, awesome.
Oh, good, dude. Thank you so much for joining us, man. How's your day been?
No, thanks for having me, man. It's been good. It's a bit slower than usual. I think it's like that for a lot of people, and obviously not like that for some people unless you're like a doctor or something like that, and you're really involved in stuff. Yeah, but it's all right. I'm still working, so it's we're still working from home.
Yep.
We have a work call at 10, and that's kind of when we begin work. And then we have a wrap up call again at 5. So in between that, we kind of work, but it's obviously not as stressful as just regular time. So it's kind of being nice as well, because you can chill a bit and but also get
Yeah,
work
man.
done.
I think for me, I've figured out that less productivity is better than no productivity. So I try
Sure.
to get the best possible work done in the time that I have. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Like before we go on, I want to quickly introduce you. I'm probably not going to do justice for your introduction because you've been quite a busy man. You've been quite a busy man for all your years. But I'm going to try. So Senel has co-written a book about sex. He also has a passion project, which is hashtag LKA. And he also got the Queen's Young Leaders Award in 2017 as well. And yeah, you've been an activist for a very, very long time. Sharanya speaks very highly of yourself as well.
Thanks, and yeah, Sharon is a good friend. I see that she's watching, I think. And yeah, you had a couple of my friends over. I think, did you speak to Jayatma as well?
Yes,
And yeah, so we started hashtag together with a couple of
crazy.
others, Mahisha, Chapa, and then Adil. Adil's no more. But the group of us started hashtag together. Yeah, so it's been
Amazing.
really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, like, tell us all about you, man. Like, how did you come to be? What are some of the passionate things you talk about? Because some of the things you talk about are like how sexual harassment, like the women, are highlighted. But the thing is, the whole problem with it is how men are brought up as well, and how they get put into this culture that it's okay to do and say the things that they do and say. So, like, you've painted them as sort of a victim from a young age, unfortunately, because they were exposed to such cultures. So tell us all about you, man. Why do you believe in certain things? What do you do for a living? Please, take all the time in the world to tell us about you.
Yeah, I can say a little bit about the what side of it. The whys, it's never you never know why you do what you do as well, because you just this is what you
Are
believe
you a
in. And
Simon Sinek fan?
sorry.
No, because you're quoting Simon Sinek.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah,
are you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you don't. Yeah, some an Indian writer, I think. Someone asked them why they write, and then the response was, why does a cow milk? Like you just do it, like it's just what you do, like you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, because it's just that's what you know that's what you know how to do. But yeah, I've been involved in a couple of things, but the main thing is this thing called hashtag generation that we've been involved in. So we started about 5, 6 years ago, and it was completely like it was a lot of us were in undergrad at the time, and this was like a side, thing that we did in our free time, and it was just a space that we used to like create conversations about things we cared about. So they were either little posters or little videos and stuff like that, and about different issues. And we also sometimes asked, uncomfortable questions sometimes because someone has to ask it, and now it's grown over the years. So now we have a big pool of volunteers, but now that's kind of become also my job, which in some ways is great because then I'm able to dedicate all of my time for it. But in some ways also is not that great because then it's money and then it's complicated. But it's been really good. It's grown over the years, and we are quite proud of it. We work now more on the space of kind of technology and human rights, so they're kind of the space where those two things meet. Because there's so much going on in the internet as well. A lot of racism, a lot of fake news, and even these days linked to the coronavirus and stuff like that as well. So we do some work to kind of counter that, raise awareness, make reports, and things like that. But we also create conversations on different issues, including like gender equality, as you said as well. Because there's some stuff that we don't kind of grow up talking about a lot. We're also not taught about these things in school, so we think that's just the normal. And you kind of need to go out of your way to learn about these things, read, watch YouTube videos or whatever it is. So that's not how it's supposed to be. But yeah, so we try and use that space to create conversations. We do trainings and things like that. Yeah, and it's been good. It's been good.
Amazing, man. And I feel like I've gotten 10 times smarter after I've started this live show because I've just been speaking to so many intellectual people about like systemic issues. I've been talking to them about root cause issues and what we can do and like how we can make a generational change then rather than a short-term change kind of thing. And it's been quite interesting, man. Like I'd love to get your opinion on how what you think, how we can change the communication that we bring about in Sri Lanka. So, for example, to add context to that, how do we bring about lasting and impactful change when a lot of rural areas don't have access to this information? They don't have the internet, they don't have the technology to access this information, and they're quite swayed by politics and ministers and stuff like that to believe a certain way and to run their communities a certain way. So how are we supposed to get through to them when it's such a systemic problem?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard, man. Because it's also, like you said, really complicated. So a lot of our work is on the internet, and then that again limits our work significantly, like you said, because internet access is not great. Like I think it's 35% of the whole country, which is nothing. It's not a big part of it's still not a big part of the population. So we still also try and travel and do workshops and things like that, but it's not enough. A lot of there's a lot of NGOs and so on that do great work. It's really impressive. But a big part of the problem is that it's all in English, but also even if it's translated, then it's also not in language that can reach, average people. So there's a lot of kind of thinking that we need to do about our communications and reaching people and so on, because clearly it's not working. If all of the work we're doing is working, then we won't be having the kind of problems that we have in our society. So there is a gap, and a lot. I mean, but there is good stuff happening, and obviously even people like yourself play an important role in getting messages across. Because sometimes people reach out, like people understand more in the kind of language the way you guys put it as well than some of these traditional organizations that have existed for thousands of years. Because we failed in some ways like that. But it's complicated. But it kind of must be done. We really need to think a lot more about about how to get these messages across. Yeah, but the internet in some ways is also a platform where we can still create content that is accessible and reachable. Because we can do a workshop that 30 people turn up, and then you spend an enormous amount of resources on venue and food and all of that, and then you reach 30 people. But when you sometimes put out a video, and we do as well with hashtag and stuff like that, then we get all of these reactions, and a lot of it sometimes is negative, but we love it because people are just like, they don't agree with us, they don't believe in the kind of things we do. But that also means we're then reaching that audience where people don't agree with us. There's a video we made about gender equality. It was featuring a bunch of kids, and we asked them to name politicians they know, and then it just turned out to be that all the names they said were men, with all of the women that we've had in leadership positions and stuff like that. And then we had a guy who commented on it, and I think he's a policeman because his face had the profile picture was in a uniform, and then he really didn't agree with all of the conversation we were trying to create. But for us, that's awesome, because that means we're reaching audiences through Facebook and stuff that normally doesn't have this kind of conversation. Yeah, but it's still not easy. It's complicated, and there's a lot more work to be done as well.
That's very interesting that you said that, because it comes down to perspective, right? So like even so I finally, after like 2 months, my TEDx talk finally came out, and I posted a video. Oh, thanks, man. I posted a video on my grid, and there was one comment that suddenly popped out of nowhere. It was just like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, how does climate change kill people? How do climate change cause people to take their lives, cause suicide? And then he clearly didn't watch the video properly, because I was just talking about eco-anxiety and climate anxiety and how that affects mental health. I'm not saying it has a direct correlation with suicide rates and stuff like that, although it could be an added factor. Yeah. And I just replied saying, like, I think you might have mistook it. And then I explained it to him. I haven't gotten a reply yet, but then again, like, now that you said that, I'm also thinking, okay, now I'm reaching different audiences in certain mindsets and certain ways of thinking that they wouldn't necessarily think. So this is my opportunity to try and either get them to think my way or try and understand where they're coming from. Every even hate comment is an opportunity to learn and improve. You can either take it to your heart or take it to your brain and be like, okay, why are they thinking this way? How can I change the way that they're thinking? So that's an interesting
for sure.
point.
And I think, and the point you made is super important, man. Like, I think climate change is if not the biggest, one of the biggest problems that we really need to fix in our generation. I think it's linked to, like you're saying, every other issue, like mental health stuff, even gender equality and stuff like that. There's so much research that's shown that because of climate change, now that countries like ours are drying up, now it's usually, in our context, it's the women who go to collect water from the well. It's the women who go to collect the wood for the cooking. And then this means that if the well is drying up, the women have to walk faster. And then if there's no wood anymore for cooking, they need to walk faster, walk further. And then this again is linked to violence, because if the well is super far, then there can be violence. So all of these different issues are linked as well. And that's another thing we try and do in our work as well, because a lot of organizations and even individuals, we try and focus on issues like their boxes. So people say we work on gender equality, or people say we work on environmental issues, or we work on, we work with business. But all of these things are linked, right? It's not separate. Like, environment doesn't stop here, and then gender begins here, and then, it's all linked. So
and what I want from people who don't connect the dots right away is just like that, that moment. Like, I want that reaction from them. That's the reaction that I want from them, because that's when I caught a nerve and I just twisted it and be like, now you see the connection. Now you see the dots connecting. So I think that's what you're also trying to do, which is awesome. So
and we're all doing this work because someone gave that moment to us, right? It's like someone wrote something, someone spoke about something, that because of that now I know this, and then now I'm talking about it. But it's not like we were born knowing all of this stuff, right? So
Absolutely, man. And I think we're all learning every single day. And just before we move on, so I don't lose this comment, Jenna, I will definitely reply to your message. I'm sorry, I got so many messages overnight. I will reply 110%. I try to keep a zero inbox, but I sleep sometimes. But yeah, man. So like moving on, Senel, you've done a lot of things when it comes to activism and try to make an impact, especially when it comes to gender inequality. Um, what is your take on sexual harassment and the things that are going on, which result to domestic abuse and violence and all of those things? Like especially now, even in Australia, Australia is horrible when it comes to domestic violence rates, and now Sri Lanka is also increasing. Children are being abused as well. What are your thoughts on that, man? Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, it's again, I think it's super complicated. In that, like you said in the beginning, I think people treat men and women like they're different categories, and then there is also like a different role that if you belong to one, then you need to play this kind of role, right? And if you're a man, then you necessarily have to be violent, and that's the way you express emotion. That's the way you engage with your friends and your family and whatever. And then sometimes, as men, we then resort to violence because that's the only way people know how to express emotion, and that often results in violence a lot at home and so on. So I think it's really complicated, but we need to engage with these issues, and I think it stems down to that initial reaction of us being brought up in different ways when life is a lot more complicated, right? And I think even even corona deaths, I think the gender breakdown is super twisted in that a lot more men are dying, and that I think is because men are one of the reasons is because men are taught to take that it's cool to take risks as men. You even if there's a curfew, it's okay. You need to go out. You need to do all of these things. And even stuff like suicide, like Sri Lanka's suicide rate is hugely figured to have more men than women, and some of that is also linked to because as men you're taught is you need to be strong, not express emotion.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, pretty much. And even economic reasons, like with communities that there is some research to show that, like for example, when there's drought in a farming community, then more men commit suicide. Because as a man, then you have no harvest. That means you can't feed the family, and then as a man, you have failed because you can't provide for the people in your family, and then you resort to then you failed as a man. You're no longer important, and then you resort to suicide sometimes. So yeah, I think it's again complicated, but we need to do a lot more to have this conversation and to especially when raising kids as well, to teach and to bring them up with these different values and to ask these difficult questions as well. Yeah, and that's a little bit of what we try to do with that book you spoke about as well, because there is so much stigma associated with sex and gender and stuff like that. And then often the like what we use to justify all of this is culture and history. So what I tried to do, I basically worked on it with two other doctors. The doctors were like medical professionals. So it was quite interesting for me because their background is completely different, and I was from a more kind of social science kind of background. But I did a lot of digging up into history and to see if what they're saying is actually true and it's legit. If historically have we been like conservative, and as we know, it's not been like that. We've historically been super liberal societies. And it's kind of colonialism which kind of changed a lot of these things. This doesn't mean things were perfect before, Europeans came and colonized us. There was caste and all kinds of problems in our society as well. But in terms of like social stuff and, gender and sexuality, we were a lot more liberal. And there's so much evidence of that kind of thing. Like there are letters that white soldiers wrote to their friends back in the UK saying, they're freaking out with how liberal people here are. And they need to go back because women aren't covering their tops and men are having sex with each other, and that really confused these people. And now all of these countries have kind of moved on, and they are a lot more liberal, and now we are stuck in that old place, and it's not even our values that we're defending.
Yeah, man, and I think like even I was speaking to two of the things like that you said. Sharanya was speaking to how education is so important because children solidify a lot of things between the ages of 5 to 7, right? and that's how they think some things are normal, and it takes a lot of time for them to break out of that habit because they're so used to it growing up. And on top of that, Aritha, who I was talking to, who supports he supports LGBTQIA plus rights, and he was part of an education program that he was kicked out of because people didn't want to see the wrong thing when it comes to education. Like we're not, it's like people ministers are basically saying like where you're teaching people to be gay, but no, it's actually teaching people to be inclusive. There's a
Yeah,
difference, you know? And it's just like so many things that we need to change within the root of our education system. So I know that you said that all of these things are very complicated, right? Like there's so many things, there's so many dotted lines, there's so many pathways we have to go across to navigate and get through to get this communication across. But boiling it down, where does it all need to start? Like, if you had all the money in the world and all the approvals and the policies that you could make and put together, what would you start with?
Yeah, I've thought about it a little bit. Firstly, what you said about Sharon and Aritha as well, they're both friends and they both do great work. And what you said is super true. What happened with the Think Equal project as well, that's a shame. I worked for a couple of years at the Family Planning Association. So my job was also to work on sex education. And there was still so much stigma. So we worked with teachers and principals and basically requested, and we always took doctors with us. So again, it's a little bit problematic because doctors are medical professionals and they don't speak the same, rights language. But teachers trust doctors and they don't argue with doctors. When a doctor comes in, they take them seriously and then they listen to what they have to say. So that was our trick. Yeah, that was our trick. And we would get a 15-minute slot in the end to kind of talk a little bit as well. But we used the doctor as our front. Again, it's not without its problems, but it seemed to work a little bit. But what we noticed in all of these is the principals, the teachers, they were really concerned. But at the end of our session, you ask kids to ask questions, and then obviously everyone's really shy; they're not raising their hands. Then we say it's okay, you can write it on a chit and send it across. And then hundreds of chits are flooding to the front, because everyone's really curious. Everyone has hundreds of questions. Your body's going through changes. Socially, a lot of things are happening. So obviously you have questions. That is that. But for what you asked about if I had this magic wand to change one thing, I think it comes down to what we've been talking about education. Because our education system as well is super unequal. Like we have the private schools and the public schools. But even the public schools are super, like there's a disparity between them. Like there's national schools and then there's different levels of schools, right? So there's so much inequality. Like the education ministry actually has a breakdown they break them down based on resources and stuff, called A, B, B, C, whatever based on, and it's really unfair because depending on the type of school you go to, that completely changes the amount of access, the quality of the teaching, and even
quite hierarchical, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think I would start with that. I would make sure that every kid gets a really good education, and that also not just facts. We are constantly throwing out knowledge, like information, years, numbers. There was this king, and then there was this king, and then there was this king, and they had wars, and this is what we learn a lot for history and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to know. There's knowledge. But there's information and then there's knowledge, when you're critically able to kind of look at stuff. And then ideally there's also wisdom, when you can analyze stuff and then actually have your own opinions. We don't have that opportunity to kind of have your own opinions about stuff. It's the teacher says something and that's it. That's the truth. But it's a lot more complicated so I think that's where I would start. But again, it's not an easy one to do. It's complicated. But I think that's where we need to start.
Yeah, man. I completely agree. Like, the more I've spoken to so many people, like, I didn't really think about education like that. Like, even a live session yesterday I was having with Tiruka, we were talking about what if Sri Lanka had so much opportunity when it comes to diversification in education. Because right now it's just like you have a science stream or a math stream. You do that, and then you have a very linear path of whether you want to be a businessman or an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor, right? What if there was more linear paths in terms of social working or community mobilization projects or psychology or like all of these different things that could aid in helping different sections, like make more topical discussions like we are talking about a normal topic can come from people who take on those roles and build upon those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah,
like, yeah, man.
yeah,
So I think, but I think it's also the education system is scared to diversify to such an extent because they lose out on money, right? People are not willing to take that risk. Parents are not willing to put their kids into education systems like that.
yeah.
So I have a question for you, man. Like, if you had a parent in front of you, right, who does not believe in all of these things, who just wants their kid to like study, work hard, get married, have a kid, look after the kid, die, right? The normal, the Asian
Yeah.
mentality of how a kid should grow up and how what a parent should do. um, I've always asked people if you had a one-on-one with someone who's going through something, but for you, if you had a one-on-one with a parent, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think parents sometimes think of kids as their projects, and you need to make the best version of these guys. We could achieve so much, but our kids need to do so much more than that. But parents also sometimes need to, and one day if any of us are parents, we need to remember this ourselves as well. That kids are also their own people, that they need to be able to make decisions about their lives, what they want to study, what they want to do for work. And obviously they're older, maybe wiser in some ways, so they can share their thoughts and how they feel about things. But you shouldn't control people's lives, because they're their own people, especially as you grow up. Obviously when you're younger, then have some restrictions in terms of I don't know what you want in their lives to be like. That's fine. But especially as you grow up, especially I think parents in our part of the world love to think of us as their pet projects, and try and get involved in everything we do. And I think all of us need to try and realize this, and parents really need to try and realize this. Uh,
Do you think that as soon as parents make their kids like pet projects and like trophy system, pretty much like an achievement list, right? Like my kid achieved this, my kid achieved this. Does that make the kid less capable of critically thinking, and does that make the kid less averse to like not averse, but less confident in taking risks and pursuing passions that they love? Like, do you think that that's a factor as well?
Yeah, I really think so, and I face some of this as well. Like it links to what we spoke about earlier, the education system. I did arts for A levels, and in a state school. So in the state school system, doing arts is not considered cool because the cool kids don't do arts; they do science, they do maths. And my arts class basically had a bunch of other kids, and a lot of them didn't have the option of doing any other subject because their grades weren't great. This didn't mean they weren't smart. This just meant that in that specific exam they didn't perform well. But I had the choice. I had above average grades, but I could have done anything else. But I felt like this is what I cared about. There was a subject called political science, and I was quite interested in politics. And then there was English, and that had a lot of literature as well. And then I felt maybe learning another language would be cool, so I did French. And my parents kind of supported me in what I wanted to do, and that really played a big role as well. But a lot of other kids' parents don't, and this kind of goes back to the parents. I remember one friend coming to me and saying not even his, and he was really confused why I was doing arts despite having above average grades. And he was like, not even my ancestors have done arts. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like he literally said that. He said it in singular, but he said not even his ancestors have done arts, and it's almost like a shame in your family to have done it. Uh, yeah,
Wow.
and it goes to your kids as well, right? When you feel a certain way, then the kids also end up thinking that way. Yeah, and I think what I studied really helped me, and there isn't just one way to be successful. You don't have to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. But we can do so many other things. You can write if you like writing, paint, whatever it is that you want to do, and then you can be successful.
And just like you said, air quotes, right? So if you take successful as a metric, what does success mean to you, right? Is it the number of money you earn? Is it the number of like cases you win as being a lawyer? Is it the saving lives aspect of being a doctor? Like you need to really figure out what success means to you, right?
Yes.
The parents can't tell you what success means to their kid, right? You need to figure out that's your observation, and all of those things play a fact. Like when your kids are growing, like observing what they're really having fun with and like
Yeah.
helping them pursue that and seeing whether they can make that a passion and a career And the thing is, if it's the creative arts or like something in the creative sector or like even social work doesn't pay a lot of money. But the thing is, if they're happy doing that, and if they're happy with community mobilization and mental health advocacy and all of these things that happen, why not, right? Success is a metric that you decide. You
Yeah,
decide to put the value on it, right?
yeah,
If it's money, go after something that makes money. If it's helping other people, go after something that helps other people, right?
yeah, yeah. That's
It's as simple as that.
exactly it. Yeah, yeah. You said it right, man. That's exactly it. Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
I think
So
you need to decide what success for you is. And for different people, like you say, it can be whatever it is. And at different times in your life, it can be different things as well. Like it can be that, now you're more focused on money, but maybe later you want to do something else, and that's also fine. But it should be up to you, up for yourself and to make that decision.
yeah, and I'm not sitting here on my privileged chair saying money isn't important. I'm saying money is important. Like I have a single mom that struggles every day for money, and
Yeah,
like if I could make $1 million now and give her that money, I would, right? But the
yeah,
thing is, she also understands that money is not a driver for me. It's not. So she
yeah,
supports me in doing things that make me happy, right? I'm a very minimalistic guy. So it comes down to what your goals are, what you want to be known for, like who do you want to like just do what makes you happy. Like I don't want to look back years down the line and be like, oh shit, like damn, I am not happy right now. Like why did I do all of these steps to get where I am to just be in like a very unhappy position? So I
yeah.
also want to ask you, and going back to hashtag generation for a second. There's so many other online mediums that are covering the news now. So you started hashtag generation some time ago, but in that time, like there have been other mediums like Raw Media, Bakamuno. Like not Bakamuno does like yeah. So Bakamuno, Raw Media. There have been so many other online news outlets that have come on. But like for example, Raw Media focuses more on mainstream media, but also they focus on the little stories as well, like the random acts of kindness stories that they do. When it comes to Bakamuno, it's more education, doing surveys, doing studies and stuff like that, getting more information so that they can implement more policies and ways of helping people. So, if you had to make yourself a unique identity amongst all of these online sources, like there's Watchdogs as well that covers the news, like facts versus false. So, where do you stand in this whole ecosystem of news and online news?
Yeah, so yeah, that's something that we are constantly thinking about as well. I think we like to think of ourselves as a more activist organization, and the work that we do, we try and it comes in different forms. So we do the online stuff, but we also do training on the ground and stuff like that as well. And then we do the kind of the online hate speech monitoring stuff as well. And we like to think of ourselves as a more like as an activist. And I have a lot of respect for all of the organizations you mentioned, especially like Bakamono and Ro, the examples that you used, and they're both of those organizations doing really important work. Ro is doing like especially with media, like a lot of people I think feel the need to kind of put out content all the time, especially media outlets. But Ro I think takes their time. They do really kind of well thought out articles and stuff like that, and they're really good. And they work in the three languages and stuff like that. And Bakamono is doing important work in sex education, like we spoke about as well. Um, I think I think we also work with some of these groups in different times. We work together in some ways, but I think we see ourselves as a bit more activist organization. We try and ask uncomfortable questions using different mediums, but we also try and work on the ground as well and do training and stuff like that. And I think it's and it's a constant struggle as well because as NGOs, obviously we don't generate our own profit. We're completely dependent on people giving us money to do different projects. So we do pitches and people give us money, and it's a constant negotiation of doing what you love and finding the money for it, and then trying to decide when you accept money to of someone else to implement what they think is a cool idea, and then it's finding that balance. Yeah, but I think it's been all right so far. We started as a completely volunteer thing, something we did in the side, and now this is almost like this is my kind of full-time job. We have a team of kind of 6, 7 people that work full-time with us, and
Amazing.
it's been quite good. Yeah, yeah,
Dude, that's amazing, man. And like, for example, like if people want to like help you guys out or like figure out how to help you guys, so how do you get your sources of funding now, like to run your organization, and how can people like help out or pitch in with what you do right now? Because since you said it's more of an activism thing, there's heaps of activists out there, especially in Sri Lanka. There's so many people fighting for different things, especially when it comes to animal welfare and when it comes to climate change. Sri Lanka is like really booming right now, fighting for those things as well. So when it comes to activism, how can people support you? Like, how can they find out like how you're getting your funding and those things, and how can they find out if you're a legitimate source?
Yeah, so basically, we are completely the best way if people want to get involved with our work is also just to volunteer with our work. Because we initially started as a completely volunteer thing, and that work still continues. Like we still have a big pool of volunteers that still get involved in all of our work. And then we have a small team of full-time like staff that also work on us. Our work is also kind of on our website and stuff like that, but it is tricky because we don't generate our own profit. And what that means is we are completely dependent on people that give us money to execute different things, and often this comes in the form of us pitching an idea to someone and then them liking it and kind of giving us funds to do it. And that is a tough space to negotiate, especially when there are things you care about, and then there are things people want you to do, and then to find that space between what you want to do and then what there's money for you to do. Or when you're lucky, you find the intersection where both things meet. Yeah, but it's a constant struggle that we have as well, of navigating. And we're not like there's big NGOs that have worked for hundreds of years in this country. So we're not that we don't have that kind of credibility among people. So to kind of gain that trust and working as well, it's a slow process. But I think we're slowly kind of getting there as well.
Amazing. And I just want to shout out to Parami as well. Parami is the one who introduced me to you, and he was just like, you need to get this guy on board. And then when I did more research about you, I was just like, how did I not know about this guy before? But
Yeah,
like, man, you're doing.
yeah,
Sorry, what did you say?
no, I said that's super nice of Parami as well, and she's great. Yeah, and she's doing some cool stuff herself as well.
Oh, dude, she's a heavy hitter. I don't want to ever be in front of her path, that's for sure. Uh, but dude, I just want to say what an honor it is to get to know you better, man. I think you're like if I'm not mistaken, you're like the 95th guest I've had in like 20 days. So like, I've been learning so much, and I learned a lot today as well. So I just want to say thank you for taking your time for the past like 45 minutes. I'm sure you could have been working on hashtag all this time. But I just want to say, man, I just have one more question for you before I let you go. Obviously, the show is called Going Life for Kindness. So I just want to know, man, in your life, in your personal life, what does kindness mean to you?
Yeah, I think kindness means for me, okay, is probably meaning is being kind to people that probably can't reverse it back to you. So being nice to the everyday people, and people who are possibly in a lower level of authority than you, the security guards, the people who serve you at the restaurants and stuff like that. Because a lot of people, it's easier to be kind to the wealthy, the powerful, the people who can help you. But it's I think it says a lot more about people when they're kind to the people can't sometimes reverse that favor. But you never know, maybe they can reverse the favor, reverse that to you as well. But I think that shows sometimes character a lot more. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I think it's true kindness. It's true kindness without expectations. So if you are being kind to the wealthy and the privileged, and expecting something out of it, that's not kindness. That's a barter system. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, you hit the nail on the head, Senel. Thank you so much. Am I pronouncing your name right? It's Senel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's an yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, so Zena, thank you so much, buddy, for coming on board. Before we leave, just tell people where they can find you and your projects, any future stuff that you're working on that people should stay in tune for. And yeah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, hashtag, we have a website, hashtag generation.org. And a lot of the work is there. The ways you guys can get involved in that work is there as well. Check it out. And I mean, hit us up, and we'd love to have more volunteers. We'd love to have people get involved as well. And yeah, and thank you as well, man, for having me. And this was nice. This is nice. This is a nice chat, a nice midday chat for me as well. And sometimes when you answer questions for people, then you have to think more about what you do as well. Because sometimes when you're working, you're just working. You don't even think too much about why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing. Because you don't just take the time to think about these things. But when you have to respond to questions, then sometimes you get thinking as well. And that's really nice and that's helpful.
Absolutely, man. And I think these are very stimulating conversations, like it's very engaging and stimulating conversation. And it just gives me more hope that Sri Lanka has such change makers amongst us. It just gives me more hope as to what Sri Lanka could be. And I just want to say, man, this conversation doesn't end here. I think we should continue talking. And if you need, I've extended my help to every single person that I've spoken to on this live show. Sharanya, I'm working with Bakmuna now to raise as much exposure as I possibly can. Raznia, who just joined the chat, I'm helping her with Care Station as well. So, like, I'm helping so many people as much as I possibly can, and I want to use my platform for good. So, if there's anything that I can help you with, please don't hesitate to message. I'll shout out like all the pages at the end of the day, but I don't want just this to be like a one-day thing. Like, if in the future as well, please let me know.
Thanks, man. And there's tons of ways you can help, and I'll definitely reach out. Yeah.
Amazing, buddy. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day ahead, dude.
Thanks, and you too. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
So, guys, that was Senel. It was awesome getting to know him. I was reading some of his articles and his awards as well. He's been doing some incredible stuff. As most of the guests that I've, like all of the guests I've spoken to, pretty much are doing amazing things with their lives. So give him a follow. Give hashtag LKA. That's the Instagram, but it's called hashtag Generation. Some love as well. Check out the website for articles. And yeah, just stay tuned. We got 5 more guests for the day. I will take a quick 12-minute break, and I'll be back with the next guest.